Oh, it's on. Okay.
You didn't know that?
Nope.
All right, ready? Good
morning. Happy Monday to you guys.
What?
I don't know what I'm supposed to say.
We are sitting down to do a Q&A. Mary went on her Instagram and asked for some questions from you guys. And so if you don't follow Mary on Instagram, you should follow her because she's pretty awesome. Just saying. So
I also have one that I saved from last year that we were not able to get to.
All right, let's start with that one.
Okay.
Hi, Mary. My name is Kiara. I have been watching your videos for a really long time now, and I remember a long time ago seeing you talk about knowing sign language, and sometimes I see you fingerspell things, and I wanted to ask you, do you still know sign language, and how much sign do you know, and also if you want to continue learning sign language. So yeah, that's my question. Thanks, I love you.
Hi Kiara, thank you for that question. So I grew up knowing a little bit of sign language and have always loved deaf culture and have only been just kind of barely introduced to it. But I would love to learn more in my life. And I think
it's a relevant question because just this past week on the vlog, I don't know a lot of sign language, but Mary has taught me some signs throughout the years because sometimes in like the medical setting or just in everyday life, she wants to be able to sign to me. And just the other day, she was standing outside of the hospital and she signed to me.
It was taking longer than expected to get in, and this happened.
I think she just signaled that she has to poop.
So I interpreted that signing to you guys, and a lot of you thought that was pretty funny.
I was not aware that he interpreted it until after the video went up, and I'm fine with it. You guys know we're human, so I don't care. But yeah, we would love to learn more in life and like learn more sign language. And yeah, I just love it, and he's learned some along the way, and we're just gonna keep learning.
Hi Mary, Peter, Ollie, and Harry. My question is, how did you know the other was the one?
That's a great question, and someone else asked a similar question about marriage, and here's that question.
Hey Peter and Mary, I was wondering, Mary, what were your thoughts on marriage before you married Peter, or Peter, what were your thoughts on marriage? I mean, talking about CF as a CF for myself, like what were the thoughts with CF and marriage, and how did that come into play at the beginning before you guys were married?
I guess it all starts in the summer of 2005. We fondly call that summer the summer of love.
Wait. We gotta go way back before then to a Christmas pageant when we were like, how old were we?
4 and 5, I think.
4 and 5. I think it was then I knew she was the one.
Oh my gosh.
I'm totally kidding, but we are astonished that we have footage of us that young standing next to each other.
Yeah.
And there's a hummingbird outside.
Oh,
my goodness.
See, that's a different one. That's not the green one.
But that's the red throat.
It is?
Yeah, he's got, look at it.
If this is not like video evidence that we were like meant to be. But no, okay, so real life, we started dating when I was 15, turning 16. We were both in high school. We had gone to the same church pretty much our whole lives. And so we kind of knew who the other person was, but then started getting to know each other more in high school.
When would you say that you knew that I was the one?
I mean, it felt like that was oh yes, that hummingbird has a really red throat.
Yeah.
That's amazing. We just recently got hummingbird feeders, and so we have hummingbirds. Okay.
Ruby-throated hummingbird is the name.
There we go. Okay, I think that from the start of our relationship, it felt
Like I was the one?
like you were the one. And then it was
Well-
like confirmation year after year. We dated for 6 years before we got married, and it was just confirmation after confirmation, I guess.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I don't think for me there was ever like an aha moment.
No.
Maybe when I was like, I'm gonna propose to her, that it was like, she's the one.
It's more like we met each other in high school. We started to build a friendship. As we got older, we were like, this feels like this could lead to marriage. This could be a relationship that we invest in and leads to marriage. And then we continued to pray and build our friendship. And
Yeah, and then when I went to college and Mary was still back in our hometown, she was taking college courses and finishing high school. And that first year was a year that was really, really formative for our relationship because we were long distance and we were forced to like work through a lot of communication things in our dating and in our relationship, and like work through a lot of the conflict and different communication and things like that, wouldn't you say?
I would say more of working through conflict was that first year I lived at college.
Okay.
And I know what you mean, like some of it during that year when we were apart. So our second year of dating, we were apart, and then our engagement, we were apart because he was at school in another part of the country or whatever. But like, yeah, what we ended up doing when he was long distance, that second year of dating, basically we got to this point where we were like, he's doing college full time. I'm, finishing up high school and doing community college. He didn't have the time to sit on the phone and talk every day. And so we basically came to this conclusion, let's talk once a week. Mm-hmm. So throughout the week, we would write things down. This was before smartphones existed or anything. So this was just talking on the phone, probably your dorm phone.
Probably.
And so we learned how to prioritize our communication and figure out what was important to communicate. Yeah. And that helped us a lot. And it was very hard, but it was also very good. Yeah. And then when I moved to college, then we were like together much more, seeing each other on campus and all that. And I feel like those were times where we'd be hanging out and a conflict would arise. We'd go back to our dorm rooms, call each other on the phone and talk for like two hours straight to talk through it. And to me, that was more, at least from my side, that was more of the conflict.
I think it's a blur for me in terms of timing. But
I mean, it was like 14 years ago.
And sleep-deprived college student. So I would say that once we were both in college together in Chicago, that was when I started to go to CF appointments with Mary. I started to visit her when she was in the hospital, and some of that element of our relationship became more real to me. And I will say, I think we've said all along that CF kind of fast-tracked our relationship in terms of seriousness. It wasn't just like a casual dating. It was like, there's a huge like piece to this relationship.
Elephant in the room.
but in many ways, it wasn't an elephant in the room.
It wasn't.
And that's where I think it caused us to think about our relationship. Yeah. Number one, as like thinking long-term in terms of marriage. And so like hitting on the question about marriage, like we really viewed marriage as kind of the goal of a relationship. And in many ways, now there's a different hummingbird. It's not the red-throated. Now I wonder what kind that is.
I could get my bird book out.
It's actually under the camera right now, tripod, so we will look at that after this.
Tune in for tomorrow's vlog to find out what kind of hummingbird that was.
So all that to say, I think that our journey of discovering that the other person was the one was kind of just the natural progression of 6 years of dating.
And learning what commitment means along the way. And I think, you know, looking at that second question, what were our thoughts about marriage in relation to cystic fibrosis? I think we knew that our marriage would have it would require a lot of teamwork because we knew the challenge. So I have an older sister with CF whose disease progressed faster than mine, and we knew what it was, kind of what was coming with decline with CF, and we didn't know how quickly I would decline. We didn't know what our future would look like. We didn't know if transplant would be in the future or not. We didn't know any of that. We still don't know what the next 10 years will look like. But there's a level of commitment, there's a level of teamwork, there's a level of making the best of whatever our situation is and being committed to love and serve each other no matter what.
I think for a lot of people, the vow of in sickness and in health is a hypothetical.
Right.
Of like, if sickness comes into our relationship. For us, when we made that vow in sickness and in health, and even as we approached that in marriage, it was very much not a hypothetical, but it was the reality of our relationship in sickness and in health. And so we really viewed marriage, I think, like looking back to before we got married, and obviously I think we've grown and learned and like probably have a much more robust view of marriage now than we did back then. But I think for me, looking at our relationship and dating and leading to marriage, it was very much like, this is a choice.
It's not like a spell that came over us.
Yeah, but this is a choice to love one another and be committed to one another no matter what life looks like. And so I think that CF caused us to have a more like sober, realistic view of marriage, which really I think helped our early years of marriage to not major on minor things.
Yeah.
We had another couple of questions that were similar. You guys are all thinking on the same line of thought, so here are those questions.
Hey Mary, Peter, Ollie, and Harry. So I am moving soon to take a new job, and I am wondering what you guys all looked for in a new church home when you moved to North Carolina, and how you kind of came to the conclusion that your church home was right for you. Thanks.
Hi, Peter and Mary. So I want to know how you guys moved to a new town and seem to make just quite an awesome Christian community so fast, making really good friends who have the same beliefs as you. It's really hard in this day and age, especially to find people our age. So I would love some advice there. My husband and I have lived in a city for like 6 years now, and it just seems like it comes so easy to you guys. So we would just love some tips on that. Thanks.
We have moved quite a few times in our 9 years of marriage, from state to other parts of the state to another country and back, and then again. So with all of those moves, as we look, okay, we're moving in a month, Peter starts doing some research, or both of us start doing some research. What churches are in the area? We have kind of our top few things that we find really important in finding a new church. Do they honor God's word? Do they preach the Bible? Like these sorts of basic things that we find really important. And then, where was I going? I think my blood sugar might be dropping.
Okay.
Do you want to finish this question and I'll eat just snacks?
Yeah. So when we moved, this was a move unlike any other move for us, in that we had always moved for either my schooling or my job. And so we always had a pre-existing connection to some group of people. We made this move and knew that we had no like YouTube was our full-time job. Like we had I wasn't taking a church job, and so there wasn't already a connection. And so we knew off the bat, and we were really nervous about it because of that. Like, are we going to be able to get connected with people because we don't have a circle of people, whether work or school or whatever. Right. And so we knew off the bat that we needed to invest in relationships off the bat. And we are so grateful that we, due to Mary's health being in a better place than it has been, we had the capacity to really invest in relationships. And our journey of building a community around us really started with...
I think it was when we closed on the house. So in July, we visited a church, and they were like, oh, we're having a small group meeting tonight. And we were like, wow, this is the first time we've ever visited. Okay, sign me up, we'll go. It was like an informational thing. So we go, and we're sitting in the very back of the church, and we kind of caught eyes with another couple in the back of the church, and we ended up talking with them and chatting. And fast forward 7 months or longer, however long it's been, many months, we're really close friends with them. And so we took this step. I think a lot of it is being proactive. So take the step, go ahead and show up, even though you don't know absolutely anybody.
And I think that was one big piece, was we were like, we don't know if this is the church. Like, we had a lot of thoughts about, you know, we'd love to find a church where I can use my gifts of preaching and that sort of thing. And so we had a lot of thoughts about where we wanted to end up, but when we visited that church, it was like the first church we visited pretty much. We visited a couple others, but we were like, we don't know if this is where we're gonna end up staying and being a part of the community here, but it doesn't hurt for us to show up to this evening thing. We can get to know more people, and we can learn more about the church. And so I think we were not afraid of kind of committing, even if it meant a few months later, we had actually ended up getting involved with a smaller church plant that we are currently a part of, and we absolutely love the community, but we also had already built a community of friends from this other church. And we love that now we have connections even outside of our church that we worship with on Sunday mornings. We have connections with some of our closest friends are from the church we had first visited. And so I think not being afraid of jumping in with both feet was big.
Because if you keep your distance, if we had kept our distance
until we knew it was the one,
right? Like, just show up on Sunday morning and skedaddle out the back before you could talk to anybody. Like, all these relationships and learning a new church and church body, it takes a lot of energy, and that's true. And I think it takes a lot of investment of time and energy, and listening to their life stories and being willing to share your own life story, and being open to having serious conversations and having times of just hanging out and laughing together or crying together or whatever, just like opening your heart. And that's within the parameters of like, okay, this appears to be a trusting or a trustworthy person, and we appear to, you know, have the same passion for Jesus, and let's build a friendship. And I think through moving so many times, it has helped us learn how important it is to jump in, and I've also learned that from other people. I remember being at church as a teenager, and there was a new family, and these teens who were in the youth group jumped in, and I still remember that. And I was like, wow, they really invested quickly, and we built a really great friendship. So I think it's a lot of components to finding a new church.
And I think that there was a level of, when we first moved, Mary had just started this medication. We were really unsure of what life would look like here in North Carolina. And so we knew this was one of our top priorities, to build a community around us, because if Mary's health started declining, we knew how important it was to have people around us to support us, and not just when health's declining, but in anything in life. Yeah. And so it takes work and energy, and I have to acknowledge that has been harder at other seasons of our lives. And so we're really grateful that we had the blessing of really jumping into a community of friends and really family now around us here in North Carolina, and that we had the capacity to do that. And so I think if Mary was sicker, it probably would have taken a lot longer.
It would have, yeah. Just as, you know, when we were in Scotland, I was pretty sick and unable to really jump in socially. Like, I couldn't just like go hang out with a bunch of people from church and invest in their lives and being invested in. And so we weren't able to build super deep relationships in that time in Scotland. But I will say the times we were able to be at church and be in that body, I feel like thankful for that time. And you know, here we are in North Carolina, we made the move, I was healthy enough, we were able to invest quickly, and we're thankful for that. And so it's kind of like, you can't change the fact that if you're too sick to jump in that way. But now with social media and everything, especially in this strange time in the world where we're all having to connect via the internet, like Zoom or whatever, you can build a friendship that way. And I remember even with my friends here, months ago, before any of this pandemic hit, we weren't able to hang out that week, but we just set up a time to FaceTime and hang out and get to know each other. So that works too.
So thank you guys for all your questions. I hope you enjoyed this little Q&A today, and
as always, we'll see you tomorrow. Good night. Good night.
Good
Oh, he is like way
to the Ollie boy.
Good night.